Folks, it's US Open week and it's episode 12 of the Rush Hour Golf podcast. I've got with me your favorite host, Pro Golf Critic.
Thank you for that. I think you're everybody's favorite host, though, Big Boy fans.
That's not true. I get a lot of hate email.
Don't we all? It's the state of the world.
So basically what we're going to do today is note that there is Max Homa's LA story. Obviously, the PGA Tour is still pushing Max Homa as the golden boy, the favorite son. And you know what? It says 14-minute read. There's no way I'm reading this 14-minute article because I know as soon as Max Homa goes to Live Golf or gets some kind of offer, they're going to turn it and be like, Max Homa, horrible, misses all the cuts in the majors, because it's true. He's a 16-1 favorite right now.
Oh, my God.
16-1, which is mind-boggling, considering that he has 0 top 10s in majors.
None.
His best finish is a tie for 13th or 13th. And outside of that, it's a tie for 43rd. He's missed the cut in half his majors. Pro Golf Critic, what is going on with these odds?
I definitely think they're leaning a little bit too much into the fact that he does legitimately hold the course record there at LACC. I know that he won the Pac-12 championships there when he was in college, but the conditions are going to be completely different. I think that he's going to feel the pressure of being home in LA. I just don't see how he could possibly be a favorite. Like guys that win majors, like you see some sort of trend in their game where they're starting to play better, they're starting to finish in the top 10, and they start competing. He's yet to compete in any major. So I don't know how we can move him from not competing at all to being one of the favorites to win. It's totally silly to me, but it's not surprising in the least.
Exactly on point. You bring the heat with the knowledge. Max Homa would be, if he won this US Open, the first US Open champion that didn't have a top 10 first in terms of the last 43 US Open champs.
Wow. I don't think Max has any chance. Again, he's won a few PGA Tour events like it, and I've been saying for a while, those PGA Tour events were very devalued. They were pretty weak fields. They were it was like maybe 1.5. I'll really give him like 1.5 wins out of that. Playing well on the PGA Tour just does not always equate to playing well in majors, and until he shows us something more, like I'm not going to pick him to do well in majors. It's just not going to happen.
Does he even get a top 10 here?
I mean, I hope for his sake, I hope so. Just because I know how much playing in LA means to him. I could see him finishing top 20. Top 10 is probably, I could see him finishing 10th or 11th in that general range. I don't think he's going to be anywhere near the top 3 or 5 though.
My prediction? Misses the cut.
Ooh. That would be a perfect finish, but no, we'll have to see. I do think he's going to play well relative to his previous major championships. So again, we'll have to see.
How about the yin to his yang in terms of guys who clean up on the now devalued PGA Tour? Do you think that Tony Finau does well?
It's a great question. I like Tony Finau. I like his game. I think that he's a really good player. Again, I need to see more. At least Tony, we have seen him play pretty well in some majors previously. I know he's got a couple top 10s. I don't have it in front of me, but I could definitely see him playing well. I don't think he's going to finish in the top 10 this particular major. He's just really inconsistent. Like, again, he's one of those guys that like I'm never going to pick to do well in a major until he starts doing well in majors. So we'll have to see.
I like that. I like where your head's at with that. You got to show me something first. Well, I mean, Tony Finau has to show us something.
Okay, yeah.
Not you. What do you think of LACC?
So yeah, for everybody out there, I've had the privilege to play at LACC previously. Really like the court. Like you're almost never going to find anybody that says that they don't like LACC. It's just, I kind of wanted to hate on it just to be different, but I really can't. So I really like it. It's got a lot of variety. I think it's going to sort of feed into players that have really good short games and then also have a really great sort of mid to long iron game. I think that it's really a second shot course. It really is like a lot of people compare it to sort of Australian sandbelt courses, just because the turf is very very similar. It's going to be firm and fast. It sounds like pretty much from day one. And to me, there's only a couple names that are really sort of floating up to the top. When you hear Australian sandbelt, you hear, you need to have a great short game to compete. There's one name that stands out to me, and I had him picked like a year ago to win this tournament, and that's
Is that Mark Leishman?
yeah. Leishman almost got in. He missed out by a couple shots on qualifying. Even though everybody knows Mark Leishman is deserves a play in this championship, but the state of the world golf rankings now, and unfortunately the USGA is still using it. Like there's a lot of great players that are not going to be playing in this U.S. Open, and one of my favorites that, like, if he was playing, I would pick him to finish top 5 is Taylor Gooch. And unfortunately, he's not playing. So that's a really unfortunate thing. I know the Oklahoma fans are really pissed about that. Our guy John from Oklahoma, he's been beating the drum on Twitter that like this U.S. Open doesn't really count. It's got an asterisk with it. So, we'll have to see.
Let's get into the picks. You already mentioned Cam Smith. Is he your number one pick?
I've got a handful. I hate to just go with one person. I'm gonna pick like 3 or 4 guys that I think are gonna play well. Cam Smith obviously won. I've got Patrick Reed. I just feel like Patrick Reed he's due for another really good finish in a major. A couple other names that sort of stand out to me. Victor Hovland, and I feel like he's been trending. Like it wouldn't shock me at all if Victor Hovland won. His chipping, while it's improved, I feel like it's maybe not all the way there just yet. So like he could have a good, like he could hit a bunch of greens in regulation and maybe not have to use a short game all that much. So I still expect him to play well. And one long shot that I'm like, man, this seems to like feed into his game a little bit. And he had to go. He's another live guy that had to go through the qualifying. Sergio Garcia, just in terms of great mid to long iron player, like is able to sort of shape shots. He's able to vary trajectories. Like I feel like that's really gonna serve him really well. And he had to grind to get into this tournament, and he's playing well. Like there's 2 live courses that I feel like are you can glean certain things from them and sort of how they performed on those courses at LACC. One is the Grange, where they played Live Adelaide. The other is Sentosa Golf Club, where they played Live Singapore. Reason why I say those courses is because Live Singapore, you really need to have great mid irons, long irons, like that 160 to sort of 220 range. You have to be on point. That feeds into Sergio Garcia's game, and then also just those turf conditions of the Grange. Sergio played pretty well there as well. So those are my picks, and obviously the usual suspects: Brooks Koepka, John Rahm, DJ. They're gonna play well, and they could very well win. But everybody's gonna pick those guys. So I'm trying to give everybody a little bit of extra knowledge.
So what I'm going with is what I went with for the PGA Championship, and I got correct, was Brooks Koepka. I will go Brooks again. There's clearly a different level for the top 3 guys: Rahm, Koepka, and Scheffler, and everyone notes it at this point.
Yeah.
In terms of more of a long shot, as we touched on before, if you've had past success, maybe it'll show itself again. That's why I'm in on Bryson DeChambeau.
Nice pick.
Okay.
I like that pick. Yeah.
He did well in the PGA Championship. Could do a little bit better this time and actually win it. He has a lot of talent. He can always turn it on at any point. We may see his game appear in full force this week. And for my random pick, as I picked him before for the PGA Championship, shocking the world because he was actually doing really well. Kurt Kitayama.
Ooh, yeah. I had a feeling you were gonna ride the Kitayama horse. No, those are fair picks. Look, this is a very inexact science. I've got my own rooting interests as well. I'm not gonna pick him because I don't want to put any more pressure on him. But to me, the best story, if he were to win, and God, I'm rooting for this to happen, would be obviously 52-year-old, soon to be 53-year-old Phil Mickelson finally breaking through at the US Open and winning the career Grand Slam. That would be the story. That would be handing over the microphone to Phil Mickelson after he's finally holding that US Open trophy with everything that's going on in the golf world. He's the one person that like I think everybody needs to hear from. So that would be my rooting interest, but not going to put any pressure on him to get it done. He's fully prepared. The course fits into his game. Obviously, great short game, and I think he likes the turf conditions with everything at LACC. So should be interesting.
If Phil Mickelson wins it, they need to change July 4th to July 4th, hosted by Phil Mickelson.
I like that. They should just turn the entire month of June into Phil Mickelson month. Very few people have been as right as we've been over the past year or so. Phil Mickelson's probably been the person that's been the most right of like anybody, maybe in the world. So potentially him having that validation would just be everything. Like it would be I hate to speak in hyperboles, but it may be the greatest golf story of all time if he were to pull it off.
It would be so fascinating to ask him what it feels like being right.
It's a good question. We may find out that answer here in the coming days, so stay tuned. That's what I like to call a teaser. It's probably one of my favorite courses in California, probably one of my favorite courses in the world, because it's got a great variety of holes, especially the par threes. I'm really big on having a variety of par threes. LACC actually has 5 par threes. They've got one that's really short. It could play as short as like 80 yards, which is like really cool. And then you've got one that can now play like almost 300 yards, which it's not going to play that long. Like it's firm and fast. Like it's downhill. You're going to be able to roll it up. So I don't think anybody's going to be hitting driver in a par 3 or anything like that.
So you think it's going to be playing around 250?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a couple par 3s that play, like they're going to be like 280, 290 on a scorecard, but in actual yardage, it's probably going to play closer to 250, 260. I do think that you are going to see some players bring out the lumber on a par 3, which is always really interesting. And the whole key with those holes is that you just have to avoid the big numbers. Like people are going to make bogeys on those par 3s, but you just have to avoid doubles. You got to avoid triples. And I've seen some of the spots around these greens, like the way the rough is and the fescue around the bunkers, like you could be there for a while. So you just have to really miss it in the right spots there, and like just make sure bogey is the absolute worst that you're going to make.
Do you think the 290-yard par 3 ends up having the highest percentage of double bogeys in U.S. Open history?
Man, that's a great question. The problem is there's actually 2 par 3s that are like over 280. So I mean I think that number 7 is I think playing 284. I feel like number 7 is a little bit more difficult than the 11th, which is the 290 par 3. The other thing is there's like other holes on this course where they could totally eat your lunch too. Like I think that if I had to sort of earmark the hole that I think is going to have the highest scores, I think it's going to be number 13, which is a really long par 4 that like you could get in some really bad spots on that particular hole. The fairways are actually pretty wide from what I remember, but if you get around the bunkers there, I know that grass is like pretty crazy, and I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to be there on site on Wednesday, so I'm actually going to be able to take a look, and I'll probably have to revise what I think the hardest hole is going to be at that point. But that's my guess. There are going to be a lot of doubles out there for sure, especially on the par 3s, but. These guys can't handle long par 3s. It's just how they set it up and sort of what the rough is like around the greens, and yeah. So we'll have to see.
What hole do you plan to encounter Colt Knost on?
Oh, I'm sure he's going to be waiting for me on the first the first hole as soon as I get there. No, I did tell Colt. Colt and I have been messaging the last couple weeks. He didn't know that I was going to be there. This is kind of a last minute thing. I got a special invite from someone you would all know. I'm really looking forward to being there. I haven't been to a U.S. Open since 2019 when I went to Pebble Beach, and I do think that LACC is one of those places that's just really special, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I don't think we're gonna have like a looking at the weather and the conditions. This isn't going to be like one of those U.S. Opens where like over par wins or like even par wins. I think it's going to be closer to like the U.S. Open that we had at Pebble, where it could be double digits. It could be 10 or 11 under if somebody plays well. If I had to put a number on it, it's probably going to be like 8 or 9 under par.
I'm going to say it's -10 or more under par, -11, -12. So I'll go lower than you,
Okay.
which
Okay.
because
No, I think that that's a possibility for sure. It all depends on how difficult they set it up, how firm it gets, where they put some of these pins, because they could set it up. I think they are going to make it a little more sort of player friendly the first couple days, and then on the weekend, it's going to be a little bit more carnage. So we'll have to see how they set it
Pro Golf Critic, you've played LACC. We want the nitty gritty details, the low down dirty.
up. Yeah, I played it a little over 10 years ago. It was actually right before the renovation. And yeah, I know they've made a fair amount of tweaks to it, but when you play a course like this that you've been looking forward to, part of it is like you sort of get on site and you're sort of in awe. So like my front nine was complete trash. Like I was missing fairways. I was like going full Sevy. Like I was having to get up and down from trash cans like the whole nine. Like I didn't make too many big numbers, but I definitely I'm actually looking at my scorecard here, and I shot what I shoot 8 over on the front, which for me is pretty bad. But I started to settle in on the back nine. I actually played pretty well. I had a couple birdies, clean it up, shot under par on the back nine to break 80. And to be honest, from what I remember, the back nine was actually more difficult. So it's just kind of one of those weird things where you're just like you have to settle into the round. We also were like we teed off at like the crack of dawn, and I am not a morning person, so like I didn't have a coffee. I was kind of rushing and had a very short warm up. It was probably like I don't know 5-10 minutes. It was not what you need it to be in order to play a course like LACC.
Perfect, dude. That's all I needed. Subscribe, share, and like.